This week on MS Refresh, we have a brand new Microsoft 365 roadmap to explore. Plus, select message center updates that caught our eye. Spoiler, most of them are delays. All that and more. Subscribe to stay in the know. This is the MS Refresh Show. Hello there, and welcome to the Matt and Sean 365 Refresh Show. This is episode 40 for the work week of October 18th, 2021. Coming to you live from the West Coast, my name is Sean Bugler.
And from not underneath the oncoming pathway of an airport, my name is Matt Wade.
I always think that people are going to hear what's happening out there, and every time I'm like, can you hear that? And they're like, no. Of course, planes are like the one exception.
Are you like close to Oakland Airport?
I'm nowhere near it, but when there are like protests or fires, planes tend to go right over the city.
Interesting. Oh, okay.
Yeah, shortest path to doing whatever it is that they do in planes.
I guess so. All right, fair enough.
Episode 40?
Yeah.
This feels like a mistake.
I know, right?
Why are we still doing this? I guess is the real question.
I'm glad we both came to the same conclusion. What value have we added to anybody's life? I ask that every day. No, I'm just kidding.
You know, I think this show's gonna have to like buy a Corvette, shake things up. Have we made enough ad money to buy a Corvette yet?
One of those remote control ones. Yeah, like.
Oh yeah, like
we can totally do that.
RC car.
Yeah, absolutely.
One. Sure. How's everything in your side of the world?
No complaints. Let's see. This collaboration specialist is learning way more than he ever wanted to know about the Security Compliance Center and other security settings in Microsoft 365, and he wants to rip his hair out. But, you know.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yes, that's exactly the appropriate response.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I just got shoved into learning a whole lot about Dynamics, which is also not my cup of tea. My apologies to, of course, anybody who digs the Dynamics universe.
I don't know which situation makes me want to heave more, honestly. They're both
I think I would honestly pick yours, to be honest. Like, I would rather be doing what you're doing than dealing with Dynamics.
Depends on what you're doing with Dynamics. I'm not asking you to reveal any sort of corporate secrets there.
No, of course not.
But I think I might take Dynamics by like 0.5% or something over Security Compliance Center.
I mean, I don't know about you, but like if we just trade glasses, I mean, we're practically the same guy. So, I mean, who's to say that
You're
we couldn't
truly
just...
insulting yourself with that one.
Who's to say one way or the other?
Well, on that note, I don't know what you did today, but I know that I bought a new MacBook Pro M1, and that is the highlight of my Monday.
What a strange coincidence. I also bought a brand new MacBook Pro.
Okay, we really could trade glasses, I guess. That's kind of crazy.
Well, yeah, when I changed jobs, I gave back my 16-inch MacBook Pro to my previous job, which I had...
They gave you a MacBook?
I asked nicely.
Wow.
They didn't just give it to me. I said, please.
Wow.
I'm not a monster.
I should ask.
But, you know, I had ostensibly been using it as kind of just like my laptop, which... I will go on the record as saying nobody should do. Nobody should use their work laptop as a personal laptop.
No, of course not.
But I was doing that, you know, and of course then I picked up the Mac Mini a little under a year ago, and I've been happy with that. And I thought that I was going to be fine. Like even being trapped at home, I thought like desktop will be fine.
Yeah.
But I hadn't really considered how nice it is to be able to work in other parts of the house. Like I didn't realize how much I was depending on that one. So I'm actually really excited to get a laptop again.
Yeah, me too.
Well, that's good. Did you get 14-inch?
Yep, 14. I had a 16-inch for a while, and I really didn't like how big it was, just big and bulky and heavy. So the 13 is nice. I'm hoping that the 14 isn't too big because I can't go any smaller than that now. But I'm really looking forward to speeding some things up, especially when I'm in like Premiere or... I don't know, just having a Teams meeting open, for example, you know, perhaps my fans won't be running constantly. So, you know, one can hope.
Fingers crossed. You know, I was watching parts of the keynote, although of course I was very focused on work, but I was watching bits and pieces of the keynote in the background. And, you know, I didn't hear them address the most pro focused activities like opening and closing Twitter.
Well,
and
that
over
or
again.
just like editing a Word document. Like I still feel like sometimes that, makes the thing work a little harder than it should. But I'm hoping that M1, M1, what is it, Pro? I got the Pro, not the Max, right? Pro is the baseline for.
Yeah, no, I'm not spending max money.
Yeah, no, Pro. Well, and then of course next will be Pro Max and like double notch and like all that kind of stuff. But
Mega.
I'll take what I can get. But I don't know. I think that's probably good to kick off the news. How does that sound?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do it.
All right.
This is the news.
It's that time of the month where we talk about all the fun news hiding inside the message center. Let's get into it. The timeline meeting join custom branding has been adjusted. And by adjusted, we mean delayed. As a reminder, this release would allow tenant admins to upload their company logo to the Teams admin portal, so it appears on the meeting pre-join and lobby screens for meetings organized by members of their tenant. It was previously reported on this show that the rollout would begin in mid-August, running through the end of October. Well, it's pretty much the end of October, and rollout is now expected to begin in mid-November, according to the Message Center, running through the end of that same month. Additionally, it's been noted now that this feature will be available, interestingly, as a preview for everyone until December 31st, 2021, after which point an advanced communications license is required to continue using this feature. They just want to give you a taste. Teams has been piling on new views for over a year. Gallery, large gallery, together mode, pop-out mode. But it hasn't been the easiest thing for users to discover naturally unless you watch this show, in which case, hi. Well, worry not. Starting later this month and running through mid-November, Microsoft is rolling out a new view switcher button rather than diving into the ellipses or ... menu. So that should be good. Sticking with Teams, music mode used to transmit high-fidelity music like that newly, again, remastered Let It Be album, now has much more firm release dates. And by firm, I mean delayed. Commercial clients will start to see rollout starting now in late November rather than late August, which, I don't know if you've noticed or not, has passed. Surprisingly, GCC will also see rollout in late November, with GCC High jumping into the mix in mid-January and DoD shortly after in late January. Coming in mid-October, Teams users will pick up the ability to comment and @mention other users in specific list items. Now, of course, this functionality already exists in the web if you're using SharePoint or directly within Microsoft Lists. This is just another step in the steady march of enhancing the experience within Teams so that we can never leave. SharePoint is picking up 4 new site templates in mid-October for targeted release and early November for everyone else. The templates specifically target retail customers, nonprofits, and healthcare. As always, templates are a great way to help new users hit the ground running with their new modern SharePoint sites without having to be an expert in design or even knowing what web parts exist to begin with. Things to look forward to. Sticking with SharePoint for just a bit longer, private drafts for SharePoint pages and news are set to start rolling out for targeted release tenants in late October and standard release in mid-November, running through the end of this month, or rather, running through the end of November. With private drafts, users will be able to create and edit content that's not ready for others to see except the people with whom you might want to collaborate with. Drafts will be visible to only the page author, the people the author chooses to share it with, and, to nobody's surprise, site admins. Neat. Custom list templates are back after being delayed from launching back in August. Customer organization created templates will allow admins to add their own custom designs to be made available alongside Microsoft's current collection of ready-made options. The new release is set to kick off later this month for a standard release, given that targeted release has already finished. And lastly, OneDrive is picking up a slightly simplified toolbar. I actually like the design. Rollout has already begun for both targeted release and standard release. However, the conclusion of the rollout is now scheduled to stretch out until the end of November.
That was the news.
Hello!
Hey, howdy.
It was slow news. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously there's always delays, but
Yeah. The SharePoint draft page, so you managed your intranet for a while. Do you see in your SharePoint tenants that if you're working on a draft page in SharePoint, a page, news post, whatever else, that the visitors to that site can see the draft even if it's not published yet?
not visitors, no.
Okay.
That's not been my experience.
Okay.
My understanding is that generally, well, let me course correct a little bit here. If you've created a page and you've never published it,
Yep.
visitors should not be able to see it.
Yeah. That's what
But
I
if you've published it at all, that instance of that page exists now and visitors can see it. So that's
have
kind of
this-
the big caveat.
I have discovered in a couple tenants that I have that that is not the case, that visitors have full access to it, and they're actually listed in the managed access as being having direct access with the other groups in the tenants, which in the site, which
That's weird.
agreed. Yeah, I don't understand why that is. So I think it's time to open a Premier ticket.
Yay. Put that Premier support money to work.
Yeah, baby. All right. Well, I would ask you, like, what stood out for you? Do you have a short one you want to chat about before we dive into the real topic for tonight?
I'll go ahead and just say that I'm really glad to see that Microsoft is still looking at trying to enhance little UI things that people interact with a lot but don't necessarily think about. Like the view switcher is a great example of that. Microsoft has really been packing in a ton of nonsense into the ellipses menu of Teams, and that's just, I know we talk about like give me the GUI all the time, but it's kind of cheating. It's like just dumping a PowerShell commandlet out there. You're not really thinking about where it ought to go. And do I have a preference of having the GUI or not having it at all? Yeah, give me the tool. But at the same time, you hope that what's happening now keeps happening, which is they come back and they look at it and they try to figure out how to cluster things together in a way that actually makes sense. And I think that the view switcher is a really great example of them coming back and trying to make that right.
I was convinced as you were reading through that you were wrong on that one. And I'm like, there's no possible way the view switcher still hasn't rolled out fully. And you are absolutely right. And I have seen it in every tenant that I have. So it's weird that I did not know that it's not fully GA yet.
Now it's not in my tenant,
Yeah,
and mine is one of the largest in the world, to my understanding. So,
listen to you.
well, now I'm just part of the gang.
Yes, right. All right, let's
yeah.
jump into the big topic for tonight. So I'm going to pull in the news here that the roadmap itself has been redesigned. So we talked
Now, of
about
course,
this.
we do want to go ahead and flag. You and I both brought this to light
Yes.
months ago.
We did, yes. Based on tweets from somebody else. I mean, it's not like we,
Oh no, of course, but we
Yeah,
broke the news on YouTube.
Yes, but it's not like we're taking down. This isn't Watergate, and we're not the Washington Post or anything. But
This is Matt protecting his MVP status right here.
I did not say that. But you're right. We did mention this months back that a new, simpler,
Tell your friends.
better experience was going to be rolling out for the roadmap. And we have gotten questions before on like, hey, where do you get all the information that you have for the news each week? Well, it's right here. We get it from the Microsoft 365 roadmap. You can Google it. I don't even have it until just recently. I just added it to my Chrome bookmarks bar. Before I would always just Google it, and it was always the top hit. And I don't know, have you looked at it much yet since the update? I think the updates were like Thursday. I think I saw the first whiff of a mention on Twitter.
Yeah, I poked around a little bit, and I'm glad. And just for context, Matt, what is the roadmap?
So the roadmap is the location that Microsoft has agreed to put all of their, or some of their, planned updates for various Microsoft 365 apps and services. So that could be anything from, an update to Microsoft Word to Azure Active Directory. This does not typically include Dynamics. It sometimes has some stuff from the Power Platform. It's there. It's listed as being an option, but I never have really seen it used very much for the Power Platform. But it's great for seeing what's coming soon in SharePoint, Teams, lists, Yammer, and those are probably really the best ones. Those teams are really much more on it than a lot of the other ones are for features that are coming soon.
Yeah, and the Power Platform, of course, tends to cluster their updates and blog posts and
Right.
Microsoft Docs for reasons.
Which is disappointing because it would be nice to have that one central place to be able to see an entry for every, expected feature that's going to be coming out. But yeah, so if you've never looked at this before, and this is the first time you're seeing it, you're now seeing the updated version of what this, looks and feels like. There has been a nice sort of minimized version now of each of the items. So you'll see in this list here, you can see a bunch of these with dots next to them and their names with a little expansion caret. And when you click that, it will give you the description for what this feature is going to do. It gives you the roadmap ID, which is the unique number. And if you end up putting the number in the search by feature ID or keyword here, it will actually give you a URL that will show you just that item. Basically this list filtered to that. So it's kind of a nice way to point to somebody to this and say like, hey, this specific one is good for you to know. And it will list a number of other pieces of metadata, including which products are being applied to and when it's coming. So two of the nicest actually feature updates I like about this. First is the little dot guideline here. So if the item is in development, it's this darker, I think they're all shades of blue, blue 1 dot. If it's rolling out, it's 2 cyan dots. And if it's launched, it's 3 sort of royal blue dots. So you kind of can get a quick glance as to the status of any individual item. And the biggest one I actually really like, I was never sure what the dates meant, like what the delivery date was, if that meant that it's going to be, if it's a preview, if it's in general availability or some other concept. Well, they've actually added the GA and preview. GA meaning general availability. It's available to everybody. So that's pretty sweet. I do like that, including you might see both. Although this is probably a bad example because this one goes to both preview and GA.
It's just a 1-2 punch. They're going boom, boom.
Hey, right? Whatever. I'll take GA as quick as I can.
That was actually one of the biggest value adds of being an admin, was being able to see the message center so that you could actually get the differential between general availability and preview. A lot of times they just wouldn't communicate that information in the roadmap at all.
Yep.
So it is really nice to have that information out there all in one fell swoop. And I do hope that this is a sign of them, the roadmap team, continuing to try and capture more of that information, create spaces for more of that information. Because sometimes it's not that the teams don't want to share that, it's that they're filling out a 6-question survey and drops it onto the roadmap.
Yep, no, agreed. So otherwise, usability wise is really the only change here. I don't mean to belittle the look and feel, but the content and the process for how this works is going to be roughly the same. I haven't seen any indication otherwise that there's going to be more, pressure or, being held to the fire from the product groups as to more and more features being included. I will say if I were to provide feedback on this entire experience, it would be, I need more items and I need the dates to be more realistic from the start, but everything in project management takes time. So I can't really hold that against them. I will say a couple other UI improvements I like is the filters have moved from the left side column here. There's a pane that used to be on the left side to basically what are now mega menus. So if I choose product here, it lists them all out now in a number of columns, as opposed to just having a full scrollable list of the whole thing. So I can actually pretty quickly, if I want to, filter by Teams, Stream, and SharePoint, I can do that very quickly. And then I can also look at the various other items here, which is pretty nice. I'm a big fan. So yeah, I don't know, Sean, what do you think?
I'm glad because this was clearly focused on mobile usability. That's been probably my biggest critique of the roadmap up to now, has been my ability to, pull up my phone and click on a link and get to what I need to and read what I need to, and more importantly, be able to navigate through it. So I'm really excited about that. And if I'm not mistaken, I do also believe they've improved the RSS feed with more detailed value fields as well. So for I'm going to guess the 1% of us out there, although knowing us and our audience, it's probably more of you. The RSS feed allows you to plug that into the follow site field of Google Chrome that just launched. You can also use your RSS reader, whatever that happens to be. I use Reader, Reeder, on iOS, and I'm a big fan. But yeah, no, they're all such small usability things. I do want to take this opportunity to flag, because I know we do have a fair few educators and government adjacent individuals as well, is that you can filter by cloud instance, which is really big. Now, caution that not all PMs that fill this out understand or take this as seriously as we might like them to.
Yes.
So sometimes stuff that is going to be like GC is going to launch in GCC will just get tagged as worldwide standard multi-tenant. But to that end, filtering for GCC or GCCI does give you at least some overview, some perspective as to where PMs are looking and where the teams are looking when it comes to developing these tool sets for those specific cloud instances. And so when I was in the government space, that made a world of difference, just being able to filter for that.
Yep, totally agree with you on that one. The other thing they have is a little bit of information at the top here. So if you click on this roadmap improvements, it brings up a PDF of all things, to cover the changes. So if you're interested and want to see a little bit more, in fact, to Sean's point, they specifically call out the mobile view here, which
Look at
interestingly, that's interesting to me. I've never had the need or want to ever open up the roadmap on mobile. Feel like even with this, it would be too much, but everybody's got their thing. So you got to cover for all those different use cases. And this is a good example where two different people have two very different preferences for what they will accept for when your standards are a lot lower than mine. That's what I'm trying to say.
I consider success to be when I get to a point in my life where I can do 100% of my job from my phone. That's, to me, the definition of success.
Does that involve, I could do a good portion of my job from my phone too, but my thumbs would fall off because of the conversations I would have to be having with them.
See, and you're proving my point, which is, right now, that doesn't fit into your paradigm.
I see.
So my ideal world scenario is that I just get to set the pace, and it's whatever I can do on my phone is the extent of what I have to do. I'm not anywhere near that right now.
All right.
But calling my shot Babe Ruth style.
While I still can, I'll give you 2 thumbs up on that effort. So someday they'll just fall off, though, and I can't use them anymore. So yeah, that's all I've got for roadmap stuff. I mean, it's a cool, nice UI update. Kudos to the design team that did this. Looks really, really good. I think it's going to be. I've only really used it once, since we looked through the roadmap. I only look through it usually like once a week, kind of check on what's coming up the next week, and that's sort of the effort we make for this show, is to do this so you don't have to, right? So
you're welcome.
Theoretically, the audience to this should never have to know that there was a UI update to the roadmap. But my feedback, again, will always be on the content, not on the display. This could look like Craigslist, and if it had better content, I'd be just as happy with it.
Truth.
I'd still complain. Let's be real. Just being honest. So yeah, that's mine for today. I don't know, Sean, what do you think? You want to hop into maybe a question or two?
Yeah, slow news week.
Yeah,
Let's see. We've got, of course, our friend Ross jumping in, the big 4-0, the big 4-0 episode wise. I think it's been about a year too. Didn't we start this in like October or November of last year?
I think we actually started in December, but we did a couple of practice rounds that nobody else could see.
Which I still think is some of our best work.
We're earlier on, right? Yeah, that's very valid. Yeah, I'd have to scroll back. December 7th was our week 2, actually. Episode
there you
2.
Go. So November.
Yeah, I guess so. Late November.
Coming up.
Yeah. November 30th, I guess. Look. Yeah, November 30th was episode 1. Interesting.
And of course, we get this question a lot. How often does Sean shave? I shave daily, and then I have to try and make it the entire day without sneezing. Otherwise, this.
It just goes full on chia pet. Right. Now, I did want to kind of pull this one in. So, Sean, you're a Zoom guy, and I'm kind of curious what your viewpoint is here. So, the difference in Teams versus Zoom the layout, right?
The
Zoom,
dynamic views.
yeah. So Zoom has everybody sort of has a dedicated spot. Now, I've been on Teams call. I'm on Teams calls regularly where there's more people than there are spaces, right? Like not the 49, I guess more than 9, we'll say. But the dynamism of the whole design is very different from the Zoom one, where it's like, okay, Matt's in this corner and Matt stays there, unless somebody drags and drops Matt in their personal view, right?
Right.
I'm curious, what happens as you go above the limit that Zoom shows? How does it prioritize people who are talking if you've broken the screen real estate limit?
It tends to just kind of Indiana Jones it. And what I mean by that is it just kind of like swaps a square. Like it just kind of switches them out. And it doesn't give you, it's not jumpy. I think that's probably my biggest note with Teams is that Teams is, particularly once you get above like 7 people that are, 4 of whom might be talking.
Yeah.
That just starts to become this roller coaster of like,
I had to think for a minute as to what you meant by Indiana Jonesing, but you're talking about the idol and the bag of sand right before the Rolling Rock scene, yes?
yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Especially for those viewers that may not be, nearly as up on their Raiders of the Lost Ark references.
You're missing out.
It's true. Can I go back to the old school?
But yeah, Zoom is much more inoffensive in how they swap that stuff, because Zoom's very focused on just kind of like it goes to pagination or pagination, however you want to pronounce it,
Right.
as they start to exceed that.
Which we're getting in Teams soon. And then for Teams, if you really want somebody to stay in the same place or like be dedicated there, you really want to pin them. But that's only on your view. You can't affect other people's view with the pin. You can spotlight, but spotlight only goes up to 7 people right now. So yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't, and I think gallery view does this to some degree, but I do think that there's value in dynamic views. I just think that we need a way to like calm it down a little bit that doesn't make it feel so frenetic. Because I'm, particularly in an early morning meeting, I'm sipping my coffee and somebody who hasn't been talking during stand-up the whole time jumps in and suddenly it's boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't want that.
I would be curious if they did further research on like the Zoom fatigue concept. Microsoft will put out the fact that together mode, uses less brain power because you're not bouncing around all those squares. But Teams itself is more offensive, as you're saying, compared to Zoom, where I know where somebody is, or I can bounce around to where they are and will be. But in Teams, it's almost like one of those games where you have to get the one color block out and you have to move everything over one place.
Gotta get the car out of the parking lot.
And that's harder for your brain to deal with.
I hadn't considered that. Yeah, the company that is coming out here and saying that this is causing fatigue.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got one more question here that's jumped out, which is how does the music quality for audio work, the music mode work when it comes to sending and receiving audio? Does everybody need to have it activated to send and receive the high quality audio? It's a really good question. The answer is no. Yeah, this is whomever is going to, I like to think about it in the context of like when the pandemic first started, everybody was trying to figure out what leisure would look like in this new world where bands couldn't go to bars and, Beyonce couldn't rent out a stadium. So a lot of people were going to Zoom and Teams and they were trying to play music from wherever to the world. The problem is that all of these platforms were designed to, mute loud noises, essentially, to silence them or to try and mitigate them as best they could, which isn't really the point with music. So with music mode, it's an option, it's a toggle that's hilariously enough going to be tucked away in that menu. And you, as the person who is going to be producing high quality sounds on your side of the fence, has to enable. It's very important that you are in a position where your internet connection can support that high throughput, because it does take substantially more bandwidth than just regular meetings. So that's going to be really important. And likewise for the people receiving it, their ideal world scenario is going to be that they've got a good connection as well, because that throughput coming down the pipe is going to be just as substantial. But yeah, you just turn it on your end And I assume play music.
So, one, I'm very glad that you knew the answer to that because I had no idea. Two, when you say play music, do you mean like I'm playing music in, iTunes kind of thing, or I'm literally playing guitar and it's like being picked up by mic?
The intent of music mode, as it's been described up to this point, has been largely you've got high quality audio setups. Like I've got this thing, but likewise, a band has multiple microphones and they're set up across a room, and they've got amps and they've got all that fun stuff. They've got cables running everywhere. That's really kind of it. Is that there's music happening ambiently. And that is being pushed into microphones that are then going to be distributed.
I am very curious.
As opposed to like sharing audio on your computer, which has been available,
right?
For PCs for quite some time, and for Macs at least, I assume 2 weeks.
Yes, at least. I just don't understand. Not that I don't understand. I'm sure there are use cases out there, but they very much escape me. Like I feel like there's a bigger use case of people wanting to share videos and audio for viewers in their meetings than for a garage band to get together and perform for someone else on.
But just think how good those Teams ads will look in between touchdowns in a football game.
Yes, that's
going to be little Joey and his band of misfits from middle school jamming out in the garage. No, and we talked about this last week, that there's this interesting segmentation of organizations that use Teams for most meetings and inexplicably immediately pivot to Zoom when it comes to webinars or those kinds of arenas. And I think this is Microsoft just trying to level the playing field in as many different areas where that segmentation is happening.
Oh, that's definitely, that's a very valid point. Yeah, I think that Teams itself is being thrown at every wall possible to see if it'll stick. I still think the branding is terrible for expanding beyond the organizational setup, but
that's the truth.
Yep, you work with what you made, I guess. So
if only they had more money to work on better branding.
Nah, but they can have all the money they want. At this point, it's time. They've already lost their intro, and they can't step back.
That's not true. Did you see how many things are delayed in the news?
Well, yes, but I mean, like the name of it, it's been around since 2016 now. Like stepping back on the Teams brand to come up with a different brand name, like they can't really do that and walk away without a huge black eye. The status quo of a bad name is a much lesser black eye than we acknowledge we made an error here and we can't make this thing stick if we don't call it something more approachable by the general public.
Hey, that's my bad.
My 2 cents, but whatever.
Well, that's all I've got. Anything on your end?
No, I think that probably does it. I would say to everybody, thank you so much for watching. And as always, a like and a subscribe is much appreciated. Leave a comment to continue the discussion that happened during the live session. If you are interested in joining us live, we typically do these on Monday evenings, Eastern time, and we get these posted up usually by the Friday time frame is where I aim for that. And then a quick call to action. If any of you are interested in joining me and a number of other folks that will be taking part in the Microsoft 365 Collaboration Conference in December in Las Vegas, there is a link in the show notes or the description below to get $50 off. Hopefully, Sean, we'll see you next time. This time they were getting all the 2020 people their slots back, basically.
Yep.
So, hopefully we'll see you. Although we did see you in June. So,
I take what I can get. I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, I'd like the ability to travel and meet people and all that kind of stuff. Should be done safely. Everybody will have to be vaccinated or have a PCR test within the last, I think it's 2 or 3 days, one or the other. So it should be reasonably safe. I was talking to my significant other about booking flights the other day, and she goes, "Is it safe to go there?" And I looked up the COVID numbers. It turns out my county's COVID numbers are currently worse than Clark County, which is where Vegas is, Nevada.
They've already gotten the worst out of it. They just didn't care about it for the first 2 years.
They just flushed it out, I guess, because I could not believe that I live in a very liberal county, albeit in upstate New York, and we are very bad on our COVID numbers right now, it turned out. I had no idea. But that was my justification. Hey, we can go someplace safer for a week in December. But we're planning on, maybe doing Zion, a couple other outdoor events too. So
that'll be fun.
In town or inside, so that'll be good. Yeah. So, All right, cool. Well, Sean, thanks so much for joining me this week, and can't wait to hang out with you and everybody else again next week. And let's see, next week we'll be covering. What is it that we'll be covering? What's new and updated in the past month? And I say that, and now I realize that I absolutely hate that topic because it is so difficult, because it's basically what has been pushed out by a month, and it's like 70% of the things on the roadmap. So our news segment would be 27 minutes long, where this week's is 4, but
Well, at least we're not going to be out of a job anytime soon.
that's true. Job security. Cool. All right, well, we'll see you next week, and thanks again.